Now it's time for us to take a look at some local stories now. After last year's online meeting, it's finally time to return in person for this important event. It's a special opportunity to get in touch with the community for the Lloydminster RCMP.
Our local Lloydminster RCMP are hosting a town hall meeting over at the Legacy Centre. We're excited to see people come out and participate. It'll be happening September 28th, so tomorrow, Thursday at 7 p.m.
Now the topics covered at the event will be broad.
You can expect some conversations on topics such as policing services, the delivery process, the policing approach in Lloydminster, enhancement around public safety and crime reduction strategies. So yeah, there'll be conversations about that, as well as we'll be kind of reminding the public about what our priorities are, and then making sure they line up with the residents of the city's expectations.
Dedication to the craft led two local dog agility trainers to a very positive outcome last weekend. Our Ian Tidswell has more.
It was a heated competition at the NADAC Championships last weekend in Wyoming. Karen Allen and Carla Antel took home some top prizes, but the real measure of a good run is
for my dog to come out happy, panting, smiling, and just having a good time no matter what happened out there.
Hours of dedication go into preparing for an event like this, and there have been some speed bumps along the way.
We're qualified to go 2 years ago, but except for COVID happened and we couldn't get across the border, so we had no choice because it was in the States. But all the time, that's what we work for. Yeah, all the time.
Once the owners have jumped through all the hoops to get out there, it's time to see how the dogs can do.
It's a mature dog that I took. His name is Cooper. He's a 7-year-old Australian Shepherd.
Cooper navigates hurdles and A-frames without challenge and seems to really know what Karen wants.
He knows what I'm thinking before I know what I'm thinking a lot of the time.
All that preparation shows both in the dog and in the trainer's poise.
I don't get too worked up. I just run it like I train it.
What do you need to be an agility trainer?
Good boy! Having the enthusiasm to want to work with your dog, which is the most important thing. And wanting to build a fun relationship and do something fun with your dog.
Furry fun had by all. For Primetime Local News, Ian Tiswell.
Truth and Reconciliation Day is coming up at the end of this week, and schools around the community are teaching students the importance of what it's all about. Jack Kemp Community School especially has plans throughout this week ahead of Friday, and one part consisted of a presentation for the kids on Orange Shirt Day. Our Shelby Clark has more in this week's Beyond the Classroom.
Staff at Jack Kemp Community School wanted to spread knowledge on what the purpose of Orange Shirt Day is for all their students. The hope is for students to realize that truth and reconciliation is an everyday journey, and supporting Indigenous peoples in their own everyday journey is important.
Our population here at Jack Kemp is a large Indigenous population, and we want to make it an inclusive and supportive place for them to learn about their culture, and for those families too to feel comfortable in our school that we're supporting them in their journey of growth too.
Along with small activities for students to take part in, high school students also came to Jack Kemp for a reading on residential schools and coloring with the kids. The high school students want to help spread awareness on Orange Shirt Day and get more recognition on these issues.
Well, as an Indigenous person myself, I just think that it's important that we should spread the culture and everyone else's culture. But today and on Friday is going to be the recognizing of the missing kids, and it's going to be Orange Shirt Day.
Teaching grade 1 and 2 students can be difficult when speaking on a touchy subject. The staff think with having this presentation, reading, and coloring activities, it really helped the young students learn more about reconciliation and why residential schools existed in the first place. More plans are on the agenda for staff and students at Jack Kemp Community School.
We are going to be doing our walk with the Native Friendship Center, and I think we have a lot of students really excited to do that because they have a big connection to our Native Friendship Center and to the survivors we're going to be walking with. So I'm really excited to see that come together.
And that's it. in this week's Beyond the Classroom.
At Lakeland College, our students go beyond the classroom for immersive, hands-on learning experiences. It's about experiencing the real world, because the real world doesn't wait, and neither do we.
Welcome back. Well, last year was a hard year for cattle producers across Western Canada, and while it has been a good summer here in Lloydminster in terms of harvest, what are cattle prices looking like? Our Thomas Wildman has more.
Today we have Shannon Eden, the owner of Eden Livestock, a cattle purchasing company here in Lloydminster. He's here to tell us a little bit about the cattle prices in Lloydminster, as well as throughout of Alberta and Saskatchewan. And so thank you so much for being with us today, Shannon.
No problem.
All right, so Shannon, let's kind of roll the clock back a little bit here. And earlier on this year in like February, right when COVID was kind of once again hitting, cattle prices weren't looking too good. But now that we've kind of gotten into the fall and we've had a really good harvest here in Lloyd and throughout the province of Saskatchewan and Alberta, kind of tell me how cattle prices are looking so far for the fall run, especially with lots of cattle producers looking to sell a lot of their product right now.
Well, if we go back to February, just for instance, a 700-pound steer in February, I believe, was around $1.90 a pound. And then they started to escalate from there, cattle going to grass. As the summer went on, the futures market started to move and our Canadian dollar started to go down. The contract prices for these yearlings got very appealing through the summer. And we were selling 1,000-pound steers as high as $210 a pound on forward contract. But as August came around, the price of these yearlings really got high. It got that the contracts that we had pre-sold when they were delivering, those cattle were delivering from 10 to 15 cents a pound under what the cash market was. We saw 1,000-pound steers top out at 227 here a couple weeks ago. Now that we're into the calves, we're seeing 600-pound steer calves, mixed colored calves bringing right now from 267 to 272 with some of these higher end cattle that look like they're maybe going to Ontario, bringing 280 a pound on some flat 600-pound steers. And we're seeing these 500-pound steer calves right now on the real top end of them, topping out over $3 a pound. There has been a lot of forward sold calves already that we saw these 500-pound steers, $295 to $3 a pound for some of the top end, and the heifer calves probably trading about 40 cents behind the steers.
With these prices clearly on the rise as time has gone on, is this projection of this rise going to continue into October and later parts of November, or as more people maybe are going to be selling more and more of their cows to try and get the good prices, are we going to see a bit of a leveling out or a bit of a dip in prices come into the fall and winter?
Well, my opinion on this matter is I really think with some of what's going on as far as the trucking is going to be a major issue this fall, as a lot of our trucking companies are really struggling to get people to haul cattle for them. Another thing that's really going to come into play, I know 3 weeks ago approximately, the barley price in the Lloydminster area was $7 a bushel or even under that. And I've heard prices this week as high as $8 a bushel. So that's really going to play into the price of the calves, because if the barley price is escalated 15%, well, that's all got to come off the cost of gain of these cattle.
The grain prices of barley being so high, despite a pretty solid harvest here in Lloyd, is the possibility of feed for feedlot producers and just producers in general going to be a problem coming this winter, or should producers be able to consistently be able to feed their calves and maybe not have to sell as many as they had to in winter last year due to a very low amount of feed?
Well, I think where we are right here in this Lloydminster area, this pocket, everybody was out of feed. There was no carryover in the spring. I think we had a good spring, good summer with lots of moisture, and we right here have been able to put up enough feed but there's a lot of pockets in through central Saskatchewan and southern Saskatchewan that went through a major drought. And I think if you get in that Rosetown to Saskatoon area, there was a lot of people weren't able to hardly get any feed. And I've talked to some guys, their major problem that they're going to have is straw, as there was in that area, the crops were very poor. And therefore, with the wheat and the barley not being very tall, they weren't able to even bale any of the straw behind the combines. So I don't think we're going to have an overabundance of feed, because a lot of this feed and straw is going to relocate out of this area to areas that did go through another drought. And then you get into Manitoba where they were, and southeast Saskatchewan where they were flooded so bad. A lot of those areas, I talked to some people yesterday, and they're right now they're at, they figure there's 75% of the crop still out into that interlake country in Manitoba, and that's a huge cow area as well. So I just see a lot of this feed and straw relocating, and that maybe being an issue for the next year.
Thank you, Shannon, for this insight into the cattle market and feed prices as well in the general area of Lloyd and, of course, in Saskatchewan. And we thank you for all the information. We hope you have a good rest of your fall and winter before the cattle prices.
Always a pleasure, Thomas. Thank you.
And now here's a look at today's egg prices. Well, it's another week of football for the Lloydminster Barons, and they're still hungry as ever to get their first win. The Barons had a tough loss to the St. Paul Regional Lions last Friday at home, 28-22. The team knows regardless of their record, the biggest thing they say they need is to be working as a unit.
I think we all need to give it our all, shed a little blood, some tears, really kind of get that work in as a group, not just as one.
The Barons will look for their first win Thursday night against Wainwright, who are also looking for their first win. Kickoff time is set for 7 p.m. at Armstrong Field. Shifting over to hockey now, one forward from the Lloydminster Bobcats was just recently named the AJHL's Rookie of the Week.
Wallach has it. Down low to Leslie. Leslie, high dog coin, shot, goal! Ben Coins first in the AJHL.
Ben Coin was recognized this week in the Junior League after having a strong start to the season. The 17-year-old is averaging a point a game and scored the game winner on Saturday's match against the Whitecourt Wolverines in the shootout. The Bobcats will face the Camrose Kodiaks this Saturday on the road. Now it's time for us for another check-in with weather. Let's head over to Shelby Clark.
Thanks so much again there, Jace. Yes, now taking another extended look at your weather forecast. We will be starting off with our central zone of our provinces. And on the Alberta side, we are seeing some nice temperatures, once again, kind of compared to yesterday, as we are seeing some spots looking closer to that 30-degree mark. Kind of shocking now that we are in the fall season, but no complaints here. Let's hope it keeps going. 27 degrees for Edmonton and Rocky Mountain House, while it's 28 for Red Deer and Cold Lake, so seeing some warm conditions here. 26 for Athabasca. The rest are just at that 23 mark, so not as warm, but still seeing past that 20-degree point, so not too bad. Switching over to our Saskatchewan side, they are seeing same conditions as what we are looking at on our Alberta end. 23-24 for Melfort and Prince Albert, while it's 27 in Meadow Lake, matching with us here in the border city, and down in North Battleford. And over in Saskatoon, they are seeing the warmest there with 28 degrees. Going over to our northern zone now, they have warmed up by a couple degrees as well compared to the last few days this week. 20 over in Flin Flon, while there's 23 in most spots, as you can see. 22 up in Stony Rapids. Losh is just reaching that 24 mark. 18 up in Uranium City. So definitely looking a lot warmer over on our Saskatchewan side for our northern zone. And going back to our Alberta side here, they are seeing kind of the same conditions as what they were looking at yesterday. 27 for Fort McMurray. Most are just seeing that 23-24. And High Level and Slave Lake are probably the coolest compared just seeing that 20 mark and right underneath it. But as we go over to our southern zone, no shock here. They are continuing that warm pattern from what they've looked at yesterday. Medicine Hat is even seeing that 33, and they have that extreme heat warning in place right now in some of these spots like Lethbridge and Coronation. Kind of crazy with the fall season actually seeing this, but hopefully it kind of continues on through October and for the rest of winter. Let's hope this continues. 28, 26 for Banff and Calgary, so they are seeing some nice warm conditions over in our southern zone on the Alberta side as always. And going back to our Saskatchewan side, they have warmed up as well. They were seeing some slightly cooler conditions compared to the rest for the past couple of days this week, but now they have picked it up. 31 for Moose Jaw and Swift Current, while Kinnersley is just seeing 30. So yeah, most spots are just seeing past that 30-degree point. Great to see there. They are seeing some nice summer days almost. Seeing 27, 26 for Estevan and Regina, and Yorkton is the coolest compared to the rest with that 23. But now going back across the region and looking at what we will expect throughout our evening and throughout the night tonight, we'll be warming it up actually pretty slightly. We're seeing some double digits in some spots. Most will be expecting that low of 10 to 11 degrees tonight. La Crosse will be expecting that low of 13, and the rest will be just reaching that low of 9. So some spots are going to be seeing that single digit still in place, like with us here in the border city as well, but not too bad. We're seeing some nice temperatures for our evening low tonight, and it's way better than what we will be getting soon in the winter. So I think everyone's pretty grateful for what we will be seeing tonight. And looking at our 3-day forecast for here in the border city, 24 tomorrow with a mixture of some sun and cloud, and seeing that 19 and 20 for Friday and Saturday. So we are expecting a beautiful weekend ahead in the border city. So please make sure you get out there with your friends and family and enjoy it. And ending off, we'll take another look at one of your beautiful weather photo submissions. Once again, thank you to everyone that have submitted. You can continue to do so. I will use them on my weather segments. This one is from Hazel. Absolutely beautiful shot. Love just catching that nice shot while you're out there fishing, having a relaxing time. So thanks again to everyone once again for this, Hazel, as well. And that's all I have for now. RJ's Mackie will have our news coming up after the break.
Michael Sonhouse is my guest today on Primetime Local News. He's the Archdeacon Emeritus of the Battlefords. We're here to talk about an event that's happening on Saturday, October the 1st at 1 p.m. at St. John's Anglican Church here in Lloydminster. Now, thousands of people in London queued to say their final farewells to the Queen, and millions of people watched her state funeral on television, but only a select few guests were able to experience and say farewell in person. Now there's an event happening on Saturday. It's a farewell service to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Now, it's modeled after the state funeral, and Michael, I'll just give you an opportunity to run through some of what people can expect at this event on October the 1st.
There's two parts to it. So there's the actual service, which starts at 1 o'clock at St. John's Minster Anglican Church. And that's the brick church, the old church, right across from the May Theatre. So we will have the worship service there, probably half an hour, 45 minutes. And it will be according to the Book of Common Prayer, which was the service book that the Queen appreciated and loved and usually insisted upon when she went for visits. So it will be something very near and dear to her. And so we will have that in that service. We will have a number of people taking part. The Royal Canadian Legion from here in Lloydminster will be taking part. We will have a bagpipe piper taking part. Several readers of scripture. So we will have one person from City Council, the Deputy Mayor, will be reading a scripture, and also a young person representing the young people of Lloydminster. In fact, the young person who's reading is the person who just was appointed, she's a high school student, was just appointed to the Saskatchewan Youth Council.
Nice, it's great to see all those special guests coming in to take part in this event. Who is this made for? Can anyone in the community come in and take part in this event on Saturday?
Oh, most definitely. Anyone and everyone would be welcome. And we're hoping that there'll be a good crowd. I mean, we had the Legion service on the morning of the 19th, and that was pretty well full. But this, we can accommodate a lot more people at St. John's, and this will be distinctly different. I mean, that was more of a Legion type of Remembrance Day service. This will be an actual formal worship service. We've tried to emphasize the Queen was a very strong Christian, had a strong faith, and loved the scriptures, and so we will try to highlight both of those in the service. And then after the service, then we will have a tea in the church hall, and there will be a chance to have tributes and have greetings from various individuals. And there's a whole bunch of people here in Lloydminster that have experiences of the Queen and the royal family. So the Queen was here back in 1978, she and Prince Philip. So there's a number of people in Lloydminster that were part of that. And I know some of them will be at the tea as well. So it will be a nice time, a more relaxed, informal time in the church hall.
Now, I saw also part of that tea afterwards, and part of that kind of storytelling is also kind of sharing and display of some of the photos of when she was here in the 70s as well.
Yes, Corinne Price from the archives has gone through their photo collection, and so those will be on display. And there's going to be a bunch of memorabilia as well. For instance, when the royal couple were here, there's a book of remembrance that the mayor and his wife were given. The mayor at the time, Ross Robertson, and his daughter Ruth Tatro has a copy of that. There's also, we're hoping that there will be the royal couple planted one or more trees, and we're hoping that the golden shovels that they used, we're hoping they will be on display. But there's going to be a number of things that honoring the royal visit and honoring the Queen on display there.
No, that definitely seems like it's going to be a fulfilling event taking place on Saturday. And anyone who wants to pay tribute and honor Her late Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, should be going out to St. John's Church on Saturday, October the 1st, 1 p.m. Anything else people should know about?
Well, I'll just mention, I myself, even though I never had the chance to meet the Queen, I was in the welcoming crew, second row back, when Prince Charles King Charles came to Saskatoon a number of years ago. So I've actually been in the royal presence. But in addition to that, my family, ancestors of mine, served in 4 different royal courts. So and in fact, our association with the royals goes back to about 1503.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for coming on and talking with me today. Should be a good event on Saturday, and hopefully a lot of people can turn out in the community and say farewell for final time.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm proud to introduce Val Collins to the program to talk about her book, Where Loyalties Lie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I used to work in an office, and then about 6 years ago, I was made redundant. And like a lot of people, I'd often thought about writing a book, but I'd never really got around to it. Things always got in the way. So then I thought, well, this was my chance. I had time. I was going to take a year off, and I was going to write a book. And then I wrote book 2 and book 3 and book 4, and now I'm on book 5.
So what do you think your book brings to its genre?
What I was trying to do was write a book about an ordinary person. She's not a detective. She doesn't have any special skills or any special knowledge. She's just like any ordinary woman who finds herself in extraordinary circumstances. So that's the first thing I wanted to do. And the second thing I wanted to do was to write a book that was suspenseful but believable, so that when you got to the end of it, you could say, okay, I can see how that makes sense.
What have readers' reactions been like to your series? Like, what has the response been back from your book, from people who've read it?
Oh, it's been very good. I've been very lucky because I managed to get to #1 in Amazon in all of my books. And 3 or 4 of them are in the paid store. The first one only got there in the free store, but the rest got there in the paid store. I have people who followed my book since day one. I have people who read it like the week it comes out. Well, actually, the week I send it out, which is before it comes out at all. I'm on Instagram, and a lot of my readers are on Instagram as well. And I've had them ring me, I've had them message me and tell me, I'm on page 50. I think it's this guy, and I'm on page 100. I think it's somebody else. And I mean, what writer could ask for more?
What do you recommend people know going into your books?
Well, my books are psychological thrillers, so they're character driven. There's very little violence in them. There's not all that much police involvement. So they're for people who like trying to work out what's really going on in a situation.
So Where Loyalties Lie is the 4th book in the Aoife Walsh series. Do you have more from that series planned?
Book 5 is coming out in March 2023. I'm not too sure yet whether there'll be a book 6 or not. I never know that until around May when I start writing the next series. So if I had an idea by May, there'll be a book 6, but I might move on to a different series because I've been thinking about writing a series about a private detective who travels in time. And I might go straight to that. I might not. I might give a break to Aoife. I just don't know at this stage.
What do you want readers to take away who read your book?
All of my books are standalone thrillers. There's a different message in all of them. But I suppose the message that runs through them is that nothing is ever as you think it is. People aren't as you think they are. But it's not just that. Your own life isn't always as you think it is. Because in the very first book, Aoife thinks that she's a young, happily married woman in a great relationship. And then she discovers that things start to go wrong, and all of a sudden her perfect husband doesn't even care that somebody's trying to kill her. So her relationships keep changing, and she discovers that nothing really is what she thinks it is.
You have answered all the questions I had planned today. Is there anything you would like to add in regards to your book that I didn't ask about?
I would say that there are 5 books in the series. Okay. So this start off, the second book in the series, they all follow on. So in the first book, Aoife's very close to her mother-in-law. And the second book, her mother-in-law is accused of murder. So she tries to defend her. In the third book, 2 members of her family 2 members of her book club are murdered. Their entire family is murdered in their home. But the one thing that I wanted to say is, I know it sounds like they're gruesome, like the idea of someone hanging from a ceiling or an entire family being murdered sounds gruesome, but the books aren't gruesome. They just touch on these things. They don't go into them in any detail.
Thank you again so much for talking with me today.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate you discussing it with me.
And enough of taking a quick look at your 7-day forecast. We will be seeing a beautiful weekend and a beautiful Thursday tomorrow at 24. Then next week, look at that, starting off still pretty strong. 23 on Sunday to end off the weekend. Seeing that 20 on Monday, and then seeing not too bad of temperatures next Tuesday and Wednesday. We will be cooling down on Wednesday, but we still have a beautiful weekend ahead.
Thanks for that, Shelby. And it looks like we'll be seeing some sun on Wednesday, so we'll take that at least. That's all the time we have for the first hour of Primetime Local News. Thank you all for joining us. If you missed anything, stick around. Our second hour continues next.